What else? Mr. Funky Bass Man.
Mr. Funky Bass Man.
Sexmeister.
Yeah, not many people really call me Adam anymore.
Big D.
Yeah, but Adam, yeah, well, true. And... Hey, man.
Well, how are we all?
Absolutely fandango.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, cheers, everyone. To you and yours.
This late evening, I thought we would get us all together as Navier Gene to have a little chat, because I feel like there hasn't really been much conversation about what's happening, why, who you people are. As someone who is a fan of Navier Gene, but is also part of the background part of this band in terms of all the behind the scenes stuff, I just wanted to have a little chat. So, hello.
Hello.
I guess the common thing to do in these situations is to go around and introduce everybody.
Hello, I am Eddi Pickard, also known as Eb, and I play guitar and sing for Navier Gene.
I was going to say, you just pointed to Coog on my screen.
I'm above him.
That's the thing. That's the biggest problem with these things.
No, I was doing a bit over here for the.
Okay.
I feel like to explain that a bit more, we have two cameras recording. So everyone, audience camera.
Yeah, camera one.
Hello.
Camera two.
I am James, aka Coog. I play drums and do backing vocals in Navier Gene.
Isn't it pronounced Navier?
I don't know. No one tells me anything.
Though it's never been said out loud before, really.
I definitely have told him more than once, but I'll allow him to say it however he wants to say it. You know.
I thought it was Navier. Maybe that's the accent of the local area.
Well, seeing as it's my family name, I can tell you without a doubt that it is Navier, but whatever you want
Well,
to say.
then I'll absolutely call it Navier from now on then. Navier Gene is a band that I'm a part of, apparently. I didn't even know how to say the name of the band, but I play drums and do backing vocals in this band.
In a band I can't say.
Navier Gene.
Well, I'm Adam, also known... Well, I've got a few names, I suppose, haven't I? In primary school, I was Eddi. And then there's Mr. Dowd. What else? Mr. Funky Bass Man.
Mr. Funky Bass Man.
Sexmeister.
Yeah, not many people really call me Adam anymore.
Big D.
Yeah, but Adam, yeah, well, true. And yeah, so Adam Dowd, I play a bass guitar in the band Navier Gene, specifically, and backing vocals as well.
He does the really high ones, the cool ones.
People may have noticed, if they have actually listened to the original Navier Gene album, was it Dial-Learn that was released, the live version of Dial-Learn, and if those who know the song know that there is a nice little female voice in a part of it, and it is Mr. Dowd here that covers that quite well, I think.
Just for credit's sake, that was my friend from America, Erica Michelle. Cheers for that
Erica.
one. What's your name, my love?
With me. So I am the band's creative manager, social media person, all-rounder. I'm looking after you, basically.
Stylist.
I'm behind the scenes.
Very well, I would say, as well.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, you got to look after you somehow.
Yeah.
You've said, Eddi, that obviously Navier Gene is based off a family name, but do you want to expand on that?
Initially, when I was writing my own music, which is what I started off doing that myself. Before I was in any bands, I would write my own music. And I used to call it Shagpile. Story behind that quick one is that I was heavily into the 70s and dad rock at the time. I would wear cherry red flares, women's suit jackets and stuff. And I thought a cool name for basically the music that I'm playing now was Shagpile. So God knows how that happened.
Yeah, baby.
Mate, it's pretty cool, actually.
But it's quite a good name, actually. You know what I mean? You've got to have a bit of shag pile.
Is it?
I don't know. I think it might be, honestly. Oh. Yeah, basically, once I realised that was a terrible idea, I asked my mum what she thought I should call my music. This is before I actually wrote anything that was labelled as Navier Gene. And she was just like, well, why don't you call it Navier Gene, you know? Because you're always real sad and you're writing sad songs and it's the Navier Gene genetics, isn't it? You know, your grandma was sad, I was sad, and it's your grandma's name. I was like, yeah, that'll do. Let's go for that. Sounds good. But I actually do really like it and it sounds cool. So
Really deep.
That's the story.
Really deep explanation.
I was about to say, like, it is sound like way more deep, like, and I think yeah. All right then.
There's more. There's more to it, but I mean, like, let's not get depressed. I mean, I think it's a cool name. It has like a really deep value and meaning to me, and I just think it suits as well as a band and a unit.
Your brain does all kinds of gymnastics to get you to the places that you end up
I was
doing.
going to say, I never put anything like that 2 and 2 together in any way, shape, or form.
Well, now you have, and you're like, fuck. Does it actually? Sound
Now
like
I have, yeah.
Well, now we all know. So we've established the band name and also established an actual backstory for everyone, contextualised.
Right, that's it. Let's go on. Let's do one.
So realistically, what people can expect from this is, and the reason why I'm here as well is kind of like, because I'm a big fan of Navier Gene, but also I get to see the insides of it. So I was like, let's do this, and hopefully...
She's also the only reason any of you are hearing or seeing anything about Navier Gene right now. Otherwise, we'll be still just jamming and drinking, probably, all three of us.
Because I insist on everybody seeing it.
So this one's to Jenni.
She pried me with wine. It's the only reason I agreed to this.
Man on that goon bag.
Is that a box of wine?
Yes, thank you for
Bag of wine, mate.
Gonna use it for a pillow later.
Yeah, thank you for covering my overheads.
So what people can expect from the podcast is a conversation about Navier Gene. So like for fans of Navier Gene, but yeah, also just having a general chat of as three musicians and a random person who is in the industry, talking about the effects of the industry, what's going on, just having a general chinwag on a hopefully regular basis, where we can all have a chat about what matters to people, specifically related to music, being in the music industry. And I think you've all got really good insights, so let's share it with the world. We have recently introduced 2 new members of the band, which are appearing on your screen right now, as it had actually been a solo project of Edward's for a little while before. So I just want to talk a little bit about the process of that and why that happened.
It all happened one dark and stormy night. We spoke about this not long ago, didn't we? About the how everything kind of got kicked off in terms of even before the first album, really.
I think me and you had a discussion, didn't we? Before the first album came out about starting a band, and that was the first time we spoke, me and you, together about it.
Yeah, we our experiences with music have always kind of been intertwined, but somehow separate. Really the same for all three of us in their own respective ways. But in terms of my involvement with Navier, we have known about each other musically for a number of years. We had played shows together, playing in different bands. I think the thing that really set off the mutual respect and appreciation was sharing not a rehearsal room, but being in the same rehearsal space round the corner from our local haunt of Spider's nightclub.
Praise be.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
That old room situation.
For context, Spider's nightclub is a very famous nightclub in Hull, where you guys live. That's been around since 1979, I think. But yeah, it's a very famous place for those who are around the area.
In terms of us kind of being in close proximity and never doing anything, it's just shocking that it never happened sooner. We'd always operated in the same circles.
As musicians, the first proper taste I got of Coggin, James, Anthony. The first proper taste I got of him was when we had a room share. And at the time, I was rehearsing with Mr. Sister Fister, and you were rehearsing with a young Colourline, I think. I think that's what the band was.
It was pre-Colourline. It was Beneath the Eyes of Eternity, I believe.
And basically, one night, one rehearsal time, Coggin, Coog, James Anthony.
What is it this time? Can we just define you a name, please?
I'm going to call him Coog.
Just this one time.
We're going to call him
there we
Coog.
go.
Right, okay, so Coog invited me to check out some new material that him and his band have been working on. And basically, we went to his space, and I sat down, watched the whole band, and my gaze was just drawn immediately to the drums, and I was like, yeah, that's him. That's the guy. That's the drummer. He's the guy I want in my band. When I finally start my band that plays music I like, that's the guy I'm going to get in contact with. So that was our first introduction, I think. And then as soon as I basically freed up some space to start said band, we were at a club, I think probably a gig or a nightclub, probably drunk, and
Probably started.
Just probably spiders. And we spoke briefly about starting something, and I said I had a couple of songs on the boil. Are you interested? And Coop was like, yeah, I'm interested. I could probably spare some time for you, kid. No worries. And that's where that started.
No.
He's fresh. Let man be fresh. He's fresh. As for Dowd, now this man was a legend before I even knew what his face looked like. Through Aaron Kitcher at college, we were looking to start a band ourselves, and he was recommended to me by Aaron by saying, oh, this guy I've known my entire life as a musician is the best bass player, guitarist, vocalist, songwriter basically I've ever heard.
If we go, well, it's up to you. How deep do you want to go on this one? Do you know what I mean?
How deep is your love? Your love.
Yeah, exactly.
My love for you, it runs very deep down, honestly. Do you want me to do the
This
story?
is it.
Do
I
you
agree.
want me to do the story?
I agree.
Shall I tell the story?
If you want to
again?
do the story,
There's two accounts
Yeah.
of this. There's two accounts of this story, and I've said it a million times. I say it a lot when I'm drunk. So here it is for you guys. Basically, he messaged me just before Infinite Annihilators was about to kick off, and was like, "Do you want to start a band that plays stuff like this?" And it was basically Navier Gene mixed with Muse. It was exactly what I wanted to do, and I was super interested in doing it. And I was like, "Yes," immediately. And I could do it. I didn't even leave him on red. It was go time straight away. And then he never messaged me back, and then started the band without me. Started the fucking band without me, motherfucker.
okay. So,
No.
and again, the retaliation to that. Not retaliation. That sounds aggressive.
It's definitely retaliation. Trust.
The debate.
Come on, bring the heat.
The debate on Dowd's
So
side.
I message you. I get the yes. We chat briefly. A week later, Decapitation comes out. You go like that, and I get unconfident in my abilities to retain you as a guitar player. So therefore, I go to a friend, another friend from a previous band, and he joins the band.
One thing you should know about me is I'm both attainable and retainable.
Ooh.
But I was just like, well, more to the point, why would he want to even look at me anymore? That was the main thing that I thought.
I have a question actually related to what you've just said. Obviously, you said that Eddi is a guitar player, and I think that's like what a lot of people know. His key skill is
Wrong.
being able to play a riff. But did you guys know how? Because I think that when people are introducing Navier Gene, they're surprised actually that Eddi has quite a vocal talent as well. Not to blow steam up his butt, but is that something that you guys were aware of when you originally were thinking of?
Before they start their thing, I'd just like to clarify something, because I do think what you've just said is wrong, and it's one of my main gripes with my appearance as a musician. I don't class myself as a musician, I class myself as a songwriter, and my actual skill that I think is a good skill, my only true skill, is songwriting. I am good at guitar and singing, but songwriting is...
That is an interesting controversy. What is the word?
Here we go.
Controversial
Papa Dowd.
thing to say.
Straight in.
Controversy.
Controversial.
Just stop trying, dude.
Maybe I should have applied less alcohol to begin with. Like, I've given you all wine to get you here, and maybe it was
I
a
received no wine.
I believe
no
you.
wine was received.
I'm fine.
She
I'm fine.
only gave Coog wine, and me and Dowd got nothing.
Yeah, fair.
No, don't get me wrong. I wasn't putting myself down there. I'm a great musician, but I see myself as a songwriter and not a player.
Yes.
Understand? And a lot of people in my sort of network, followers and things like that, see me as this great guitar player and stuff. But I would rather be seen as a good songwriter because that's what I've always done well.
Do you think anybody's ever seen in that way though anymore? I don't think it's kind of a thing, really. I mean, if you look across the industry generally, I sort of built a bit of a name for myself purely based on technique. They had no idea who the hell I was. You know, I look like every other bass player. Do you know what I mean? And it was purely because I was doing a double thumb thing because not many people can do it. Do you know what I mean? And I was doing a slap thing because not many people can do it. And it was, I built a following purely based on that. Coog gave me the platform for that in the colour line and stuff. Can't deny that in any way, shape or form. But I've built on top of that because I just don't feel people want to recognise a songwriter anymore.
I think with what you're saying, you're correct. I think starting a fan base and a presence is that way. But then now we all have a platform too. It's about time that people learn that that's what the skills are, is writing music, not playing guitar.
As a listener, rather than as someone that is actually in a band or a musician in like any like credible way, I actually think that I would like to pose to you that there is actually a little bit more of like, I mean, Eddi, you're from DIY bands like known as like an at-home band. Navier Gene is definitely a DIY band, and that's not all to give it less of credit or anything like that. I think that it's actually probably more prestigious to be able to create all of that basically in your own home. But I think, especially in the local scene, especially like national rather than international, that we look at bands as they do everything themselves. And don't you think that's potentially more of that songwriting that people recognise? Yeah, you're a great guitar player, but you guys write great songs, or that guy's a great lyricist, and he might not be the best vocalist.
What you've just said is
that's a really good
absolutely
point.
Correct, yeah. Like I was just saying for myself, I also see Coog and Dowd the same way. Like, both fantastic players, and it's what drew me to them in the first place. But they've both got excellent ears for music and songwriting and things like, like hooks and things like that. Like, if you're gonna write songs with people, I would pick these two people, especially for the genre we're doing right now, because I have faith as much in their ability to play music as to write it.
I think for what I was sort of saying there is like, I don't think, well, it's interesting that you said what you said, Jenny, but I just don't think a good proportion of people, like actually think of it as, oh, I can love this band because they're great songwriters anymore, as much as they probably did. Does that make sense? Even though they're loving the songs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's the thing that comes to mind first. But I think as a musician that listens to music, I think that is one of the key elements to it, like you say, and that's where you will sort of gain traction in what you're wanting to hear as a player and as a person, Eddie. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely something I want, because I've never had that. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's maybe it definitely comes across as a secondary thing. Like you get invested, you fall in love with the sounds of certain songs, but especially if you're a musician yourself or you're learning to play a certain instrument, you are going to be drawn to that particular aspect. I know when I was starting out, I was drawn to bands like Blink-182, Green Day, because I loved the sound of the drums. It wasn't until later on when I was building up my palette of musicians, bands, groups, whatever, that I began to appreciate how much weight in the long term being a competent songwriter or being able to identify
Massively.
the things that need doing, where you're all fantastic musicians, but you can't all just go guns blazing all the time, otherwise nobody actually gets a say in it and the song suffers. And
Absolutely.
Being a good songwriter also means being sympathetic to the other performers, allowing people to, take turns, having their moment. There's been plenty of times when I've been in the studio I wanted to go absolutely nuts, but like, no, it didn't serve the song. I'll do one fill in the leading into the last chorus, and then when people hear it, they go, ooh.
You still did all the fills though, didn't you? You still did all the fills.
No, behave, right? Just in this particular example, sometimes all it takes is that mindset of, this is for the song, this is for the benefit of everybody else to enjoy, appreciate the what everybody's bringing to the table. So hopefully as a listener, they may not think it, but it's like a subliminal skill set that
you both hit the nail on the head, I think. And I think what it boils down to is the listener, especially if we're talking about metal as well, because you either listen to metal because you like the songs, or you listen to metal because you like the drummer or the guitarist or the vocalist of that band. And in the studio especially, my entire life has been, and people jeopardize me and put me down for this all the time and say, where's the new Infinite Annihilator record or whatever? It's like 3 years late. It's not 3 years late. It takes 3 years to make music that I think is good enough to release, right? But also, on top of that, like Coog said, I release music that I think is composed correctly, but is also jam-packed with tasty bits for the musicians out there that are like, where's the good drums? Where's the good solos and stuff? It just so happens that with Navier Gene, it's easier to get the feel right, and the tasty bits come second, and you can sort of embellish. But the hooks and the catchiness and the feel of the general feel is much more easy for us, especially now as a unit, to achieve, I think. But it all depends on you, listener. And with what I said about wanting to be recognised as a composer, it comes completely down to the people listening right now to decide really what they're in our band for, to listen to the composition of the songs, or to digest it and, you know, dissect it and be like, I really like the bass in this song or the drums in this song, and that's why I like it.
With the debut, the self-titled Navier Gene album, obviously that was written as a solo artist, as a musician who can play all those instruments, and it's composed and put together and written as Eddi with all of his taste and all of his influence, which is really cool. But then when you introduce, I mean, there are fans of that then, so that's how they hear that. And I think, obviously, I mean, me and Eddi have discussed this, how there isn't as much of a raw sound, but more of a produced sound that perfects like the mood of how Eddi wants it to sound, like the influences that are there. So as a live band, bringing 2 other people into that, you guys have gone and recorded a few of those songs, which we've had one of them with Die Alone. What's that like to try and translate for fans the same mood, but bringing something more to people and bringing that as 2 musicians and trying to translate that into a 3-piece rather than a studio that Eddi has to play with?
Scary as fuck. Scary as fuck. On multiple levels. Because when in my opinion, when I was first sort of getting into it, all I wanted to do was impress Eddi.
Everything you just said, I agree, but back at him. It was scary, and I wanted to impress Dowd and Coog.
Guys.
Go on.
That's all it was. Brutally, that's all it was. The problem with that is I was trying to impress him too much that I wasn't playing the song. I just wasn't playing the song, and which leads totally directly to what Coog was saying about I wasn't being sympathetic. I was just going, look how cool I can do this. But it made no sense. It didn't gel correctly. 4 or 5 times in where I'm sort of like not getting bored of the song, but you know when you're getting tired of playing the song over and over, that's when the spark hit for me. I went, right, I'm get it now. Because I was knackered basically, and it was like, it gels.
I think for us all, it's a case of the fact that we've never been really properly in a band like this that's going to be taken seriously and go forward. And everything we do is so hyper-analysed that we have to play it the way it is, and we have to do it to the best of our ability. And what took a few sessions and a few rehearsals to get was the fact that we're just a rock band and we can basically do whatever we want as long as it's sympathetic to the way it sounds. For me personally, I enjoyed every jam, the first one to the last jam, as much as each other, because hearing the songs I've written previously and some other little tasty bits, but hearing those with a nice 3-piece setup, guys that can do backing vocals sympathetically to me and can play amazingly, but that we're also a few beers deep and we're nice and relaxed, and the actual music comes out and you can just sort of feel each other out a bit, add a bar, slow it down, you know, put a solo in here, do a little drum fill there, and it's all organic, is amazing.
Yeah.
And I also think, respectively, with the covers we've done of the two songs, one you've already heard, Die Alone, and another one coming out, I think we've literally had to change the composition of it because there's more than one guitar on the recording. And Dowd does a lot of the extra guitars there on the bass. And then, Coog will do a lot of the main vocal while I provide some new harmonies to fill out the extra areas and stuff. That sort of decomposition of the composition to then create a new thing that sounds, in my opinion, way better live is the best experience I've had so far with the band.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
It's definitely fun to hear. I mean, I think a lot of people watching people listen to Die Alone as a band, even though obviously it was a live recording, but to listen to that put together, a lot of people were excited, and I think it kind of refreshed that sound to introduce what might be coming.
Yeah, I think if anything, it was just a nice experience to. I mean, I can't remember how many days out that we are since the live video dropped, but to see so many positive comments and people not pushing back against me and Adam being involved, not that the fan base is in any way toxic or anything like that, but because to so many people it's quite a precious thing. I think because the subject matter in some of the songs in the first album can be quite they become quite personal. They touch on very emotional and personal, sensitive topics. I'm just glad that people seem to appreciate and respect what me and Adam were trying to bring to the table with those particular performances. But also, I think it's good to be aware that we're not necessarily going to be playing that closely with everything that we do, because with this new material, it is also me and Adam being involved. So maybe...
No, you're right. You are right.
to
Because the thing is,
tasty things.
it was evident to me when, because we've had the 2 release now, haven't we?
Yeah, we've
The
got
Deftones.
Yeah.
That was the key point, because I was real similarly sort of, I wasn't anxious per se, but I was definitely sort of pooping my pants a little bit, like what they're going to say, what they're going to say and do. Like, who the hell's that bald weirdo? But it's what you just said, Cook. It's like I was super heartwarmed by the passion, and I think you're right. It is totally from people who've sort of taken that previously. And what for me, importantly, what I like is the fact that I feel like I'm very much in their position as well, because I was very much in the same mindset as them with that first album. I had no idea, and then it came out, and I loved it when it came out, and I remember messaging you specifically going, "This is cool, Eddi. Like, where the hell's this come from?" Do you know what I mean?
I think that was the general feel of the fan base was Eddi as a metal artist to Eddi as a solo project writing really cool music that was way different, that had a different fan base. And I think it immediately found people who what they enjoy out of the metal stuff was what they enjoy about Eddi as an artist was brought across into this. And then also people just discovering maybe even a new genre from it, but at least some new sound that they hadn't heard from Eddi.
Totally.
I think it's fair to say, with what Coog was saying, I was in the same place as the fans. Which you're all amazing, by the way. As small a group as you are, absolutely amazing support. Thank you so much. But I was in the same place as them, in that I didn't really want to make my songs into a live band, even though they really needed to be. And I kind of did want to do it, but I didn't, because I didn't know if I really wanted someone to play the drums I'd written, or the bass I'd written, or if they do it justice, or if they do it a way I'd like. And even though, like Dowd said, he was just showing off to me and kind of not playing what I'd written, and Coog was just being Coog, just basically putting flippity flams everywhere. It was like exactly what I wanted and exactly what the sound needed. And I was like, oh, well, fair. That was complete time wasted not doing this then, basically.
No, I think what it's like specifically in that point though, I think there was definitely a point in which we needed to sort of get our balls out for a bit, not figuratively, not literally.
In that transaction, I only got one ball out because that's all I have to offer compared to these two.
But we definitely had to sort of go through, I think, that motion, then have a beer, reflect on it, and sort of go, yeah, we need to chill out. Do you know what I mean? That's when it's going to sound good.
Yeah, big time. But we did do a lot of grandiose little jams, and I did enjoy, because I as also most metal these days is written in a bedroom. So for a player that generally doesn't like metal as much as they like rock, to get into a room and just basically just strum an open A chord and be like, yeah, man, this is cool, was actually exactly what I needed as a musician at that time. And yeah, we got our dicks out. I got the tape measures out. I was the smallest, clearly, but we got all that out the way. And then we were like, yeah, man, this is exactly what we should be doing. Why are we doing this? Then we got down with the songs, pulled the songs apart, put them back together again, and they sound, in my opinion, way better than the first album did them justice. Especially with Die Alone, has a completely different vibe for it. Like when I wrote that song, I was like Alice in Chains, but more contemporary, more like mainstream, and it didn't sound like that to me until we played it as a band.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that Josh Homme said. It was just like, I do write music to get these ideas and these things out of my head. And even when I wrote and recorded that song, it wasn't out of my head until we played it together as a band.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely brought something new. And obviously you've touched on the fact that this album is the first album is very personal. And I think a lot of fans, some of the comments from people that I wish I could shout them out and I wish I had them in front of me, maybe next time, but some of the story, like people sharing the songs with their partners and it being like this some people say like the album was like the album of that year for them, and like they still constantly listen to it, is the fact that there is like the people love it as it is. So there is like an element of wanting to bring something more or like adapting it without changing the source material too much. And the fact that it's deeply personal, it's not like Eddi's just written some songs that he sounds cool. Like you can feel with the first album, it's like the lyrics and the way that it's felt and sung it sort of speaks to your soul a little bit. I mean, for me it did, and I feel a lot of other people feel the same. So like playing that and doing that justice is obviously difficult. And I think that's what you guys have echoed here, which kind of brings me to asking, obviously Eddi wrote those songs on their own and adapting it as three people is one story, but when you guys sit down and look at writing together and doing and creating projects together and music together, how do you think that differs as musicians to sort of bring a whole original new sound?
The time in which from the day it sort of got started, because what are we talking here? Like, the message to actually start jamming and trying stuff was 2019, I think.
Potentially, yeah.
It was a while ago. And
Yeah, I think it was late 2019.
yeah.
We messaged before we actually did anything of work.
Oh, yeah. There was, like the old days, a lot of messaging. But from that point, obviously, COVID, blah, 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 blah. We managed to sort of get some jams in before COVID kind of hit in the March. And we did a lot. We did a lot of, like, relationship building before COVID wasn't even a thing, basically. And the writing process, I felt I didn't expect to do the way that we have, if that makes sense. And there was a lot of lessons I had to personally learn in having to sort of work both online, then having opportunities in person, and then be humble in accepting critique, and that was I'd had a bit of practice with a previous project, if I'm honest, but how do I put this without sounding like a jerk? Nobody really sort of critiqued me properly when it needed to happen, Does that make sense? There was only one person in that group that really sort of was like, let's get on you, you know, on that kind of thing. So to receive correct and critical critique, because it is your project, that's at that point it was your project that turning into our project, you know. It was very key element in terms of like the writing process, that we all stayed humble, you know, and unoffended by critique. And yeah, I suppose that was it really. That was my main thing on that, is especially with the fact of having to flip between, Eddi, I've made you a song, or like, is it any good,
But
you know?
I think for me, there's two factors to this, and the first factor is, and some scientist or mathematician will know this somewhere, but there's like a diagram which is 3 circles, right? And there's like a bit in the middle that's like the optimal bit. Does anyone know what that
It's
is?
a Venn diagram.
One of them ones, right? Right. So in this middle territory is all the bands we share in common, yeah. Like, and that's like all your Queens of the Stone Ages, your Dillingers, and all that sort of stuff. And that's the go-to, because like a lot of that middle range is where I draw inspiration for Navier Gene from. But then we've got all these other pools of things that we draw from. So that's just basically bonus content in terms of writing. And for me, as soon as I knew both of these guys were going to be in the band, and I was continuing to write new music, before we started writing as a group, I adjusted how I work drums to how I know Coog plays drums and how I know he likes to play drums. And equally, if I recorded a full song, I wrote a full song, Dowd wasn't there, I would play bass like I knew Dowd liked to play bass. So like they'd already had an effect on me in terms of like, this is pretty much is what it's going to sound like live right now, but just without the raw power and
It was really cool
really.
how that kind of got refined over time as well, because I started sort of picking up your recording practices and stuff in sort of the way that you,
To the fact where he procured a Telecaster just to record guitar parts.
like specifically.
Pickard.
I did. Well, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Because why be so pig-headed to try and like give him something that doesn't exist as a sound? So go ahead and get the same guitar, you know. It was like,
I think it's also fair to say, aside from the music element of that as well with Coog, he has like a great like vision for all things, like basically anything to do with video or imagery or themes or direction. Like he has a way bigger pool of things to draw from, and apart from like the efforts and the ideas he brings in musically, another great tool of what he has is this basically mind of just, here's a thing we could do, and this is how we'd probably do it. What do you think? Things that me and Dowd wouldn't ever think of. It's nice to have that as well.
What I'd do is I'd make a diagram, right, where there's like 3 things that overlap.
Yeah,
It's called a Venn diagram, right,
Yeah,
of
one of them.
influences.
scientists will know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Or
No.
mathematician.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, in terms of when we were first jamming out, establishing and really kind of feeling out our relationship, not just professionally, but also personally as well, I think that's a really important thing to say as well, because we had been aware of each other, we had spoken to each other in passing, sent each other messages, either congratulations on, you know, oh, I've just had the new single, it sounds fantastic, you know, giving each other applause on things that we were working on personally. This was a really good opportunity for us to really establish those personal connections. And it's, I think because we've all been involved with music for so long, sometimes it can be, you almost forget what that childish giddiness of making a band with your friends can be like.
Important.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've been doing this for near on 20 years now. Dowd, you're about the same.
Dowd,
I,
you're fucking old as out, aren't you?
That's without saying that you're old. Like, but you've been knocking about the block
I
about the
suppose-
same amount of time as me, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like actually, I'm not going to say the year that when I came to sort of, I remember my first show, because as Eddi was saying, like, I sort of grew up in the sticks with, but with the old Kisha, man. And coming to the big city was like a big thing back in the day for me. So I'm not going to say the year, but yes, a while.
Aw.
A hot minute, but on the back of that, there's a lot to be said there. It no longer became a profession music is supposed to be something that's made from the heart. It's meant to warm your soul. It's meant to make you feel things. It's meant to be an emotional response. But a lot of people, when they've spent as long as some of us have making it, doing it, you start to lose, either for a job or doing it alongside working a job, you can sometimes lose sight on what makes
when you first picked up a drum kit and you first picked up a guitar and you're just like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah,
I literally haven't felt that properly as a musician, as a player, not as a writer, as a player, since I started doing this with you guys. I fucking love you guys.
So, well, moving forward, I hope that we can get a couple of fans to ask some questions in advance, so we can ask you guys some questions straight from the fan base. But my final question is that obviously we've been talking a lot about you guys as a band and like getting together and doing the writing process. Is there any hints that you can give us of anything exciting coming potentially?
No.
Absolutely, but no.
I love it.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that clearly some waves are beginning to gather among the shore.
Nice.
Entirely man-made, not by the moon.
How many crabs are there?
And oh, there's tons of crabs, and everybody, all here are going to grab a surfboard and have a good old on the waves.
Well, on that note, for updates and to be able to submit questions, I guess we direct people towards social media, which is at Navier Gene.
Get 'em.
On most social media platforms, at least Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I mean, you've got a couple of live videos that might be out now or might be out like within a few days of this coming out. And otherwise, stick around, follow on the socials to get more updates.
We got bits. You'll like our bits. Come check out our bits.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've already got some stuff going on the YouTube channel and stuff. So yeah, check them out. Otherwise, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed your wine, beer, and other things.
I'm gonna get
and
more.
Maybe next time I might need to get less or more next time, but we'll work it out. Try and find a bribe for next time I get you in front of a microphone. But thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1, camera 2.